The Twitter Files Part 10, exposing COVID censorship, finding, quote, countless instances of tweets labeled as misleading or taken down entirely simply because they veered from CDC guidance or differed from establishment views. One internal Twitter email even revealing, quote, the Biden team was not satisfied with Twitter's enforcement approach as they wanted Twitter to do more and to deplatform several accounts. They were very angry in nature. Well, here to react is Strive Asset Management founder and author of Nation of Victims, Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek, thank you for being here. What's your reaction to this latest Twitter dump?
It is yet another episode of the government doing through the back door what it cannot do directly through the front door under the Constitution, and that is to censor speech. So they're delegating that dirty work to this private company instead. And it sacrifices the basic idea that free speech is a precondition for the pursuit of truth, because if you censor the wrong ideas about COVID or any other topic, inevitably you're going to find out that some of those wrong ideas end up being the right ones in the end. And that's the lesson of this story. We would have gotten to a lot of the answers to these COVID puzzles. Think about the debates relating to school closures, for example, much more quickly had the government not been tilting the scales of public debate. Yet that is exactly what happened here, and I hope we learn that lesson going forward.
You know, there is an actual exchange, and this is quite lengthy. The independent journalist David Zweig dropping in at about 40 posts, but in one specific instance, we see an email, and this is saying it's from Jim Baker, who was, of course, the FBI's counsel, now the counsel for Twitter, saying, why isn't this POTUS tweet, that's President Trump, by the way, not Biden, why isn't this tweet a violation of our COVID-19 policy, especially the don't be afraid of COVID statement? Email from Yoel Roth. In short, this tweet is a broad, optimistic statement. It doesn't fall within the published scope of our policies. Of course, we saw the Trump administration and the Biden administration's efforts under both instances. Was it handled differently depending on who was president, Vivek?
So there is definitely a tilt in the political scales at Twitter. And the funny part is one of the things that came out in this latest release was that actually many of these so-called flags, where there are users who flag potentially problematic content, actually even came from bots. So the fact that that was not questioned by Twitter staff reveals a lot of their systematic political bias. But this is a story that goes beyond just the left-leaning political bias, though that is part of the story. Actually, one of the things that was surprising in this latest set of Twitter files was that some of these COVID-related requests and demands of Twitter even came during the Trump administration before the Biden administration took over. So in the same way that I think Elon Musk has released these Twitter files so that there's public transparency, I think the next president of the United States needs to take a step of political reform here, too, saying that any time there is a government official that makes a quiet demand of a private company, that needs to be made public for every citizen to see in the open. And I think that's going to reveal a lot more than just what we saw at Twitter. Let's roll that log over. Let's see what crawls out. That's what the public deserves to see, whether it's from a Republican administration or a Democratic one. Government officials should not be tilting the scales of public debate, and then it's only worsened by the fact that Twitter operates then with one-sided political bias.
Such a good point, and Elon Musk has teased in a recent tweet here in the last 24 hours that more is yet to come, saying we're just getting started. Vivek Ramaswamy, thank you very much for taking time.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.